All right, we are live. It is 8 o'clock. I'm just going to give it one moment here. I have some fog on my camera lens. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to try to clean it up here. Okay, I don't really know what's going on, but let's just give it one more moment and then we will get started. All right, let's get rolling here. Hi, everyone. I hope you had a great Monday. I'm actually feeling pretty sick, so please bear with me. I actually called out of the office today for like the first time in 10 years. Um, so, yeah, just bear with me in that regard. I'll doing what I can. Um, I did want to mention really quickly that I just published an article regarding cravings. It's not really going to help you if you're currently doing low carb. However, if you're not, please do check it out. If you subscribe to my mailing list through my website, you actually get the article sent to you through email too. So please check that out. All right. We have a decent amount of questions, so I'm going to get right to them. So our first question comes from Pat. Pat, thank you for your question. Pat asks, looking for ideas for smarter replacements for my salty and crunchy snacks. I'm not a sweet freak and can do without dessert on a regular basis, but I find I really miss the flavor of corn chips and or nacho cheese chips. Is it dumb to try and recapture the old joy? Pat, I love this question because nachos is probably one of my favorite foods in the entire world. There are a couple different ways to kind of answer this, so I'll go through them all as just some alternatives, and you can see which one fits, is the best fit for you. So the one thing that I've always done when I get the cravings for nachos is I try to basically find the lowest calorie corn chips that I can that are also lower sodium. I don't normally have a problem with salt. One of the reasons that corn chips are so easy to overeat is that because they combine fat, salt, and carbs in the right amount, and that can really mess with your brain signal about when you feel full. And snack manufacturers happen to know that fact, so that's why they design it that way. So look for a lower sodium one and the lower calorie ones. So that end up maybe being like an organic one may have a lower calorie count and lower sodium count. So then what I'll do is I'll take a pre-portioned amount of the corn chips and put them on a plate. And then what I'll do is I'll combine them with a really high protein nacho topping. So this way, instead of just eating the nachos out of the bag or the chips out of the bag, you're kind of making almost a meal out of it. So you can use it to like replace a meal or even just like a snack. But still the idea is, don't eat them out of the bag, put them on a plate and then top them with something that's high protein. So what I would do is something like fat-free cream cheese combined with chicken breast and like Frank's Red Hot sauce. Just kind of mix it together, and that's like a nice high-protein dip for that. Or something like low-fat ground beef on top of the chips, and then like plain Greek yogurt mixed with a taco seasoning. Lots of salsa, and then you could add like a lower-fat cheese on top, and then lots of veggies like onions and green peppers and things like that. You still get the chips, but you're limiting the portion. You're not eating them out of the bag, and you're also getting lots of protein and a tasty snack. So there's nothing wrong with fat. You need to have dietary fat to stay alive. But when you're trying to make something fit calorie-wise, going with the lower fat versions can help as long as you're not picking foods that have added sugars in them. Because as part of the whole low fat craze, a lot of companies, remove the fat, but they added sugar back in. It's kind of what you want to avoid. Added sugar is not good for any reason. All right. So another alternative would be a substitute chip in place of the chips themselves. Quest Nutrition makes protein bars, but they also started making protein potato chips. I know that potato chips aren't corn chips, but this may kind of satisfy the crunchy, salty craving you have. They're really low calorie and they're high protein. They don't taste 100% like regular potato chips or corn chips, but they instead taste like an air popped Pringle. But they have all the good chip flavors like barbecue, sea salt, sour cream, and I think sour cream and cheddar, and where's another sour cream? Maybe sour cream and onion. Yeah, that one's actually my favorite. So they're a little bit expensive, but they are perfect for like a movie snack. So like when I go to the movies, I'll buy like 2 bags of them, and maybe bring along a protein bar and sneak them in, and it's cheaper than buying popcorn at the movie theater. So, and the last alternative that I'd recommend would be, speaking of popcorn, your own air popped popcorn. That way, you're not really putting it with any oils to bump up the calorie count. It's air pop popcorn is low calories for the volume, and you can just add some salty toppings on there. I haven't had a chance to try this yet. I keep meaning to, but there's something called nutritional yeast that's fortified with B12, and many vegans and vegetarians use this as like a cheese substitute as a way to get more protein and as a way to get their B12. It's basically just protein and fiber, but it's been described as something that tastes remarkably close to Parmesan cheese. It's a little bit different of a flavor profile from what I hear. But that might be a good idea, or you could, do some other toppings like that just on top of the popcorn. And I also wanted to mention that in reply to your asking this question, Pat, someone else had replied with some great suggestions of their own. I'd like to share them with everyone. So those options were making things like kale chips, roasted cauliflower, which can be crunchy, and making your own apple crisps or chips. I think those are great options too. I especially like kale chips because they are incredibly crunchy if you make them right, and it's a great nutritious choice. I will admit, at first I was incredibly skeptical about making chips out of kale because the idea of kale didn't really appeal to me. But it is a really truly nice crunch, and it's nice and salty, and you could add a bunch of flavor to it, and it is a good snack. So, all right, on to the next question. The next question is from Danny. Danny asks, is it okay to take a B12 supplement? How interesting that we just mentioned B12. So Danny says that it seemed to help her on a sluggish day due to her low carbs, and she wanted to make it a daily thing. Are there any cons to taking B12 regularly? Well, thank you for the question, Danny. I'm not aware of any particular cons, but B12 is water soluble, so I don't think that's going to cause you any problems. Water soluble vitamins, meaning that they're flushed out with water, it's instead of being bound to fat. Fat soluble vitamins, you could take some and they'll stay in your system longer. So that's really where you have to watch out big time. However, I do want to say that supplementary B12 is only really going to do anything for you if you have a deficiency already. So I don't know that I would purposely set out to make it a daily thing, as you likely are already getting sufficient B12 from your diet. You specifically, Danny. It's probably better to get your vitamins and minerals from food rather than pills. But B12 is in meat, fish, shellfish, eggs, and dairy products. So if you're eating low carb, you already likely have sufficient B12, unless you have like a medical issue that would cause it to be lower somehow. But I would say there's no need from the beginning to just start taking it every day. All right. The next question also comes from Danny. Danny asks, I read an article on spirulina as a natural superfood and wanted to know if it would be worth taking. It seems to yield a lot of benefits, but I don't want to get caught up in taking any and everything someone tries to say is good for you. All right. Thank you for that question. I think I read the exact same article. I believe it was on Authority Nutrition. So it's funny, I actually was looking into that myself after I read it. So what I read from the actual studies that was based on, there needs to be some additional research on humans regarding some of the purported benefits from that laundry list of benefits that it supposedly has. However, even though that's the case, if you were just looking at it for nutritional value, it has tons of vital nutrients. It's high fiber, it's low calorie. So I don't really think you'd have any problems having some every day. Uh, Again, if you're going to have, if you're going to try it, you may have be able to easier to digest the powder. I did look at the last time I was at the grocery store and they didn't have it. I guess I'd have to order it. It's kind of like on the back burner. I'm still thinking about whether I'd want to bother. But I would say go for it. If you try it, please let me know. I'm not entirely convinced that I want to be drinking algae every day. So, if you can, if you try and take it and let me know how you feel and especially how the taste is. I don't know that I am going to be having a green drink. I would be unable to disassociate it from Soylent Green in my mind. So, all right. Our next question comes from Wayne. Wayne asks, what strategies, mental and physical, have you used to deal with setbacks? That's a great question, Wayne, and thank you for asking it. I think the most important mental strategy in regard to setbacks is going to be knowing that setbacks are an important and vital part of the entire process. I say that because they represent a tremendous opportunity to learn about ourselves. So when someone has a setback, I ask that they pause, they reflect on their thoughts, feelings, and emotions that were happening leading up to the setback, during the setback, and then immediately after the setback. So I think as long as you approach a setback with the mentality of learning from it, you're putting a positive spin on it. And that helps you get forward momentum rather than allowing the setbacks to kind of pile up and weigh you down and make it feel like you're failing, because really they are part of the process. And if you have a setback, it is a learning opportunity. And if you approach it that way, it's not going to slow you down at all. It's really going to be part of the process and help you get where you're going. The other thing that I would ask is that when you have a setback, I think it's an opportunity to review what your motivations are for wanting to be more fit, as well as compare how you're dealing with the setback or this particular setback and compare it to previous times to see if there's been a change, because that's a great way to kind of see progress in ourselves that's not scale related. You can kind of see, I know a couple people that I've talked to recently, they've kind of been able to break the chain of emotional eating. And it's a slow process. And there are always going to be setbacks where that may creep up again. But the point is to look at where you are now and where you've come from. And that having a setback is kind of the perfect time to review that. And I like to reiterate the notion that fitness is a skill. So just like riding a bike, going through the process of having setbacks, learning from them, that increases our fitness skill much more than if we'd done everything right the first time. It's like Thomas Edison said, I have not failed. I've found 10,000 ways that won't work. And that was in relation to him inventing the light bulb. He had to make 10,000 not working light bulbs to finally make one that worked. As far as physical strategies for a setback, I'm not entirely sure if this is what you meant, Wayne, but I'm not a fan of dealing with dietary setbacks through the physical, meaning exercise. If that's what you meant, I think that this leads to an unhealthy view of diet and exercise, where people say things like, I'm working off my dessert, or I'm on the treadmill because I had too many drinks, things like that. It's almost like you're punishing yourself for having food when food is what your body needs anyways. So with that said, I've found that I often have some great workouts after I have a deviation from my planned eating. So like if I'm going out to dinner and I don't really track my food, or I have some birthday cake, sometimes that can lead to a better workout the next day. And if I'm feeling great and my workout's going well, I'll sometimes throw on some additional sets, just some things I want to try in the gym that I have, are not part of my regular plan, just to kind of put that energy to productive use. But I don't make myself do it. I go by how I feel. If I feel great about it, that's fine. Sometimes if you are not used to eating out at a restaurant, and you've been watching what you eat carefully, and then you have a bunch of extra calories, sometimes you'll feel sick. And that's the last time you should push through in the gym. If you're not feeling well, take that as a sign that you need to kind of recover from that and keep going. what I normally say is, and this may not be an option for many people if you travel to the gym, but what I like to do is if I'm feeling crappy, I'll just go and do my warm up, and just to get my body moving and see how I feel and go from there. But like I was saying, keeping a positive viewpoint is incredibly important because exercise should be something you're doing for mental and physical health, and not viewing it like it's there to burn calories. That I find that mentality can kind of lead to, again, thinking like you're having to punish yourself or you need to burn off things that you ate. It doesn't. You shouldn't view it that way at all. It really should just be something you're doing for your health. So, all right. Let's see. Okay, and on to our last question, which also comes from Wayne. Wayne asks, have you approached injury and nutrition mistakes differently? All right, that's a great question, Wayne. Thank you. I've certainly made my share of mistakes, and as a result of some of them that are in the gym, I have been injured by them before. But I would say that I tend to approach any mistakes that I make similarly, similar to like how we just discussed the setbacks. How we view a mistake matters. It's the mentality you put towards it and the resolve to learn from it that is important, because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone's going to have missteps. It's really important as to what you do as a result of those missteps is to keep going forward. I let the cat out of the bag. So as I was saying, something that I learned from my mentor was to reframe the concept of mistakes. The word mistake has a huge negative connotation in our society, and it implies a dead end. I would recommend you try dropping that word from your vocabulary, at least when it comes to fitness. Try to instead use the word misstep. And I said I let the cat out of the bag because as I was talking, I started replacing the word misstep in the sentences subconsciously, and I didn't realize that. So, but if you use the word misstep, it should remind you that the decisions you're making are part of an overall journey, and that because you're in control, you can always correct your course. So if you have a misstep and you start going off course, you're in control. You can get back on course. It's not a dead end. It's not a mistake. It's just a misstep, but it's part of the journey. It had to be that way for you to reach where you're going. So that's an important thing to realize, is that the way you phrase it, the way you approach it, the viewpoint, if it's positive or negative is going to matter. So I would recommend replacing mistake with misstep, and just remember that you're in control. So by reframing the experience as a stepping stone to mastery, you can show yourself self-compassion, forgive yourself, learn from it, and move on. So by doing that, it makes you less likely to make the same decision again that led to what you would initially call a mistake. That way you have it reinforced it as, I'm in control. This is a decision I made. It led to this, but this is where I want to be. So now I've learned from that behavior. So, all right, you guys have some great questions this week. All right, well, that was all the submitted questions. Let me see if anything else had been submitted here through the Q&A. All right, I don't see any. I'm just going to go ahead and flip through the groups and see if there are any questions submitted through the groups. All right, I have a comment.
I don't see any.
It says, so no bacon? I don't quite understand that one. That just might be my sick brain talking. All right, but I think that covers everything, guys. Please let me know if you need anything, and I will be talking to everyone soon. I am going to go and try to get some sleep. Everyone have a great night and a great week. Take care.